Last night on the show, I made it clear that President Biden stepping out of the race and endorsing Vice President Harris wasn't a coup, it wasn't a subversion of democracy, it was a political decision. And the browbeating from the right was ridiculous. Even my guest, Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma, seemed to concede that. Well, tonight I've got a beef to pick with the left. And what I view as its absurd reaction to Biden stepping down from the campaign. For weeks, Democrats have come out saying that Biden should step aside, pass the torch, drop out of the race. He's too old. His health, his cognitive issues have become crystal clear since the disastrous debate with Donald Trump. Most importantly, he can't win. Now, he didn't want to do it, right? He repeated over and over. He was staying in the race. He was in it to win it. But eventually, after a combination of key Democratic defections, along with terrible new polls in key states, he caved, right? He made a political decision. The party made a decision that the risk he'd lose to Trump by a lot was too great. But now that it's official and he's out, well, now Democrats are trying to change the story from reluctant pragmatist to selfless hero.
We're commemorating here the remarkable act of political sacrifice, self-sacrifice by a man of great grace and a president of great consequence.
Joe Biden is a hero, and he's a patriot, and he's a great leader, and he's still the heart and soul of our party.
What we saw from this president the last couple of days was a human decency, a good man, someone who decided not to put himself first, like we've seen before, but to put the American people first and this country first.
This is the difference between a politician and a leader. He made a selfless decision, and people are heartbroken. Even people who are pushing for this to happen.
It is really, I say Joe Biden is truly an American hero. He truly is an American hero. He puts country over himself.
He truly believed it was the right thing to do in this moment. He truly believed that it was the right thing to do for this country, a little emotional, the right thing to do for this country, the American people.
Look, I get it. They love the guy. He served in office for 50 years. Fair enough. But the reality is the only reason he is out is because he finally became convinced he would lose and therefore wouldn't be the president anyway in 2025. He now gets to focus on his legacy. You could argue that isn't exactly selfless. You can't rewrite history, unless, of course, you're a top presidential historian like John Meacham, who tries to turn Joe Biden into our nation's forefather, calling it an act of self-sacrifice that places him in the company of George Washington. Except Washington gave up power for the good of the country. He didn't have to be dragged to that decision kicking and screaming. It didn't take his party pressuring him for weeks, or a startling debate performance, or COVID, or travel weariness. Washington would have won re-election easily. Washington did what he thought was right in principle and for the country. Biden made a political decision. It's not the same. It wasn't a coup. It wasn't a subversion of democracy. But I don't think it was exactly a selfless act either. Joining us now, Anthony Weiner, former congressman from New York. Good to see you, Anthony. Thanks for coming back. What do you make of what I just said?
Well, you're stretching, aren't you?
Tell me.
Look, the guy who's ever done what he has done. I mean, you've had people that drop out because they think they're going to lose, they're going to run again in the future. In 2005, when I ran for mayor, I made the runoff, but I decided not to contest it because I figured I'd have another chance. So this is a guy who had a plausible argument that he could win as well as anyone else. We've seen the polls are not gangbusters for Kamala. He chose to step down because he believed that the party and the country are more important than themselves. And here's a thought experiment. Could you ever imagine Donald Trump making a similar analysis, that this is not good for me, but it's good for my country? That's the contrast that people are drawing. And the other thing is that I put that about 90-10 that he was going to drop out, meaning he wouldn't, because I'm used to the idea that politicians act in their self-interest. And what Joe Biden showed us is that, no, it's not. The idea that he was going to get blown out, he was going to lose, I believe. But it's not that he could not produce polls that said, all right, I'm just as much in this. This guy had the worst debate in American history and was trailing by 2 points.
But by the time he stepped down, just been a poll out of Michigan, for example, showing he's down by 7 points. It was the swing states. He had no chance. The notion that he did this for the sake of the country He did it
Well, no,
because he
he
got
did it-
convinced there was no way he could win.
He did it for the sake of his party also.
Okay, for the party,
and
maybe.
again, I would say to you, I can probably name dozens and dozens of people in public life who would make the calculation, I'm going to do the very best I can to try to win this thing. I'm going to stand, I have the delegates, I'm going to stand in there. And he didn't do it. But what point are you making? He did it for a reason that turned out to be good for the country, good for his party, and good for himself.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.